Hello again and welcome back to the channel. So you can see on the screen here I've got my painting book ready to start with some short videos. Before I start, I just want to point out that the content for this book will be from my experience in learning to paint. It just crossed my mind when I was looking at a lot of the comments coming in from yourselves that I was in a place probably 25 years ago where you are now, which is learning to paint. And if I remember back in these days, I was buying books, textbooks, videos and joining subscription magazines and basically struggling. So hopefully this book will, the contents that I picked to go in the book will help you improve and reach to your next step. So before we actually start on a subject for the book, I've got a page here that I would like to start off as the introduction in your paint book. Now I've got three bits here for you to have a look at. First of all, give yourself a pat on the back. Now why would you do that? Well, because you are tackling watercolour, which is the most difficult medium to master. Why is that? Because if you were painting in oils or acrylics or pastels, if you make a mistake, you just paint over it, let it dry and start again. Unfortunately with watercolour it's not like that. And I've got this one here to finish off with. You never master watercolour. I've been painting 25 years or so and there are days when I just give in. It's such a super medium, but it's unforgiving at times. But I've put two little comments in here just to keep you cheery and never give in. If you make a mistake or the painting doesn't work out, it's only a piece of paper. And just remember, tomorrow's another day to produce one of your masterpieces. The famous Irish poet Oscar Wilde once said, "Experience is the name everyone gives to their mistakes," and I couldn't agree with that more. It sums watercolour painting up perfectly. Okay, let's get started. My painting book, or your painting book. Just before I start, what I want to do is, as I say, I think I've got about 20 different issues, techniques, content, tips that I would like to include in the book, so I'm going to name them. So my painting book, I'm just going to make it MPB. The first one will be 1, and then number 2, number 3, etc. So if you see this up in the corner, you'll know what it is. Right, so here we go, the first one. Paint will always dry lighter. Now that's something nobody ever told me. I had to find out the hard way. Couldn't remember seeing that in any of the textbooks that I got, or the videos. Maybe it was, but I just didn't notice it. And it's a common fault, or fault's maybe not the right word, it's just a misunderstanding. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a blue on the paper here, and I'm going to mix up a blue, which I think is the same as this, and we'll see how it dries. And I've also got a sort of little exercise down below, just to let you see again how this can cause problems. So what I'm going to do first of all is mix up a blue which looks like that blue on the paper, and see if it dries the same or lighter. So I'm just going to swing the camera around, have a look in my palette. I'm going to mix up cobalt blue. So here it's here. Now that's a fairly dark blue on the paper. Value wise, I would say about that's about an 8 value. So right, so I'm mixing up a colour here, as you see. Looks quite dark. I'm just going to swing it across, and I'm going to let you see that next to that, and it looks similar. So I'm just going to put some of that on the paper next to it, and then we'll have a look. It's not dark enough. Right, that looks better. Now I'm just going to paint that across there, and let's see if it dries the same. Right. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm just going to show you this little exercise again, which, if you look at the video snow scene painting with 3 colours, you'll see that this happened, which caused a bit of a problem. It dried lighter, this part of the side of the building. So I'm just going to quickly fling some colours in here. Mix up what I think is a darkish brown. Just going to swing round again, let you see this. So when you see it in the palette, it looks darker than it is. So that looks quite dark to me. So I'm just going to put it on the side of the house, and we'll see what that dries like. I'm going to put some tree at the side just to give it a bit of feeling of landscape painting. Right. So I'm just going to leave that to dry and see what it looks like. Well, the paint's dry now, and there's certainly some changes I can see right away. If I go to the top, the cobalt blue, just going to zoom in. That colour on the right, although it looked dark in the palette, that's a good in value terms, that's about a 5. I'm just going to paint this in. I would say that's about an 8. And that's about a 5. So you can see the difference, how it's dried a lot lighter. Same with the little scene down below. The colour here is not as dark as I wanted it. It's still dark enough to suggest the 3-dimensional effect, but I needed to get that to be like this kind of colour. Just going to paint it in. That's a bit too dark, but yeah, something like that would have been better to get a nice edge. So right away you can see the difference. of here and here, and that all happened because the paint dries lighter. If you go to the snow scene, the video 3 colours, you'll see that that actually happened to me. I didn't mix it up strong enough, and this dried lighter. Paint always dries lighter, and I had to go over it again. So how do you get around this then? That's the question. You don't want to keep having to go over it. Well, it's just a matter of keep trying to work out what the values are, darks, middles and lights, and you'll eventually start to be able to recognise when it's the problem arises here in the palette when you're mixing it up, and it looks dark in there, but when it gets to the paper it dries lighter. So hopefully you'll remember that, and when you come to some areas in your painting, just remember, if you want them slightly darker values, you just need to give it a little bit extra more paint. Another issue that I've seen during the many painting classes that I've done over the years with students is they mix up the colour, the value, and it looks quite strong, dark enough in the palette, and then I'm just going to show you what that would look like. It's quite dark, looks okay, but just before they actually put the paint on the paper, they mix it up, and for some reason or other they like to just dip the brush in the water again and then start to add, and that's going to be the same as this. That's reduced that from that by just adding it to dipping the brush in the water. So don't do that. Just have the courage to go across with the dark and just put the paint on the paper. Okay, so that's number 1 for the book. You can have a go, get that done, get it filed away, and I'll get started on number 2.